Well, hi again, everybody. Welcome to my latest video. Well, in this one, I'm going to tell you about a problem that Windows has that you may have noticed if you have certain types of microphones that you try to connect, primarily through USB, but it can happen also through the normal 3.5 millimeter connectors as well for microphone input. It all depends whether or not the microphone has a preamplifier built into it. Something like my Samson microphone over here, right? This one has a preamplifier installed on it, so there's no problem. But for example, this one here, which is a lapel microphone that does not have a preamplifier, right? Just a long wire. It has the lapel and it has the USB connector, no preamp. As opposed to the one I have connected to this camera right now that you hear me talking through, well, this one has a little preamplifier on it that you can turn on or off. And basically it says to turn it on for a camera and off for a computer, but that's not entirely accurate. It all depends whether or not the software at the other end can handle it or not. Well, I have the same problem that I encountered with my new Corsair Void wireless headset that I just did a review in my previous video. Now, I happen to be using software that automatically compensated for this in the editor, and it was easy for it to automatically adjust it, because the first thing I do when I load video clips in is I equalize them all out, and it worked fine, as you probably heard when I was doing the testing of this. But as I started to plan to use this for live streaming, it wasn't so good. OBS has options to do it, but it's harder to isolate it to a particular device. Well, there is a solution to this. There's a free, or at least free license software that's out there from SourceForge that will actually allow you to compensate for that and adjust it. So that's what I'm going to show you in this video. I'm going to show you how to download it, install it, configure it, and I'm going to give you testing video clips from various microphones before and after. So without any further ado, let's get started. But before we do, if you get anything out of this video that you find useful in some way, could you at least consider subscribing to my channel? That would be very helpful. So let's start. Let me start by playing the output from the 3 different microphones that I plan on testing. It'll include the actual Corsair headset, the lapel microphone, USB, and the existing Samson microphone, so we can get a good comparison before we go into it. Okay, this is test clip number 1 using the Samson mic. Normal distance about 4 inches from my mouth. Let's see how that sounds. Okay, this is a ZAFFIRO lapel mic. I have it connected to the normal place I would put it, about 3 inches below my chin, attached to my shirt. How does that sound? Okay, this is the Corsair headset microphone. I have it probably about 2 inches away from my mouth, attached to the headset. How does this one sound? Okay, the first thing you need to do is go to the SourceForge and get the Equalizer APO application that you will then, of course, load on to Windows 10 in this case. All you have to do now is click on this download button and it should come right down into your PC. Then if you take a look at your download within the web browser, you can see Equalizer APO 64. And all you have to do now is double click on this and we can install it. It's pretty self-explanatory at this point. All you have to do is, let it install, agree to it, let it install in the default location. It then pops up the options field, and in this case we want to pick capture devices, and the capture device that we're interested in should appear if you have it turned on. In this case, the first one is the Corsair Void Elite. I will say OK to that. Tells me where I can reopen it. And now we have to reboot it in order for it to take effect. So now after it's been rebooted successfully, now go into this PC, then pick your drive disk C, your local disk. Open that up. Go to Program Files. Go down to Equalizer APO. There's a multitude of different applications here. The one we're interested in, though, is the editor. The configurator, by the way, ran automatically when we installed it. We don't need to install that again. So let's double click on the editor. It's telling you, do you want to rerun it? You could, but there's no reason to, so we'll say no to that. And what we're interested in here in this little graphical tool they give you is section 1. You could actually close these sections if you want to take them out. If you're not interested in them, you can remove them or whatever you want to do to them. I'll just leave them for now. It doesn't really matter. But notice it has -6 dB. I'm going to set it to +10, and the reason I'm doing that is what I had to do in my editor on my last video in order to make the sound come out pretty much equal. Now I went a little bit over. I can just tweak it down a little bit right there to +10 dB. And now it is done. It takes effect immediately. So if I close this, and now I open up the voice recorder again, the standard utility voice recorder, and I say record the microphone, we'll see what happens. Okay, now this is the sound being recorded from the actual Corsair headset microphone. Let me go back and play this back on the video and see what it sounds like. Well, what'd you think? This is a real usable device for me now. It doesn't matter what I use it for. The preamplifier is now built into the drivers within Windows with this utility that we installed and tested. As you can see, pretty easy to use. It's one of those things that I highly suggest at this point, and I wanted to make sure, since I just did the review of this headset, that if somebody actually went out and got one, whether a new one or a used one, that they wouldn't be disappointed by the fact that depending on what application they're using on their computer, it may or may not have a volume that you can even pump up easily. Unfortunately, the utility that comes, the IQ software from Corsair, it should support that automatically. It should have that capability in it, but for whatever reason, the current version does not. Maybe in the future, they will. It's still a great headset, and I like it. I like the way it sounds, the 7.1 surround sound. I really can't demonstrate that on the camera, but it's excellent. The microphone, as you heard, excellent. And the convenience of no tethered wires between me and the computer, and supposedly up to 40 feet distance, but I didn't test that. You know, I may test that in the future, but that's all great. So hopefully you got something out of this video, and if you did, if you could just consider hitting the like button and possibly subscribing, I'd really appreciate it. So until the next time, take care and happy computing.